now.
I don't know what that all is, but it's like somebody's doing Foley work in the background.
We haven't even started the meeting, and people
All
are
right, Ma.
already
Throwing
things.
pots and pans.
So great. Thank you for muting, folks. So welcome everybody to the April 14th Caroline Town Board meeting. And we will now begin the meeting and start recording. And great. And as always, right along with the minutes. With opportunity for privilege of the floor. So if you would like to speak, then raise your hand, and Will has let me know that she would like to speak. So let's see. Can you
can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead, please. Yeah, great.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to bring to your attention a couple things happening on April 20th, a week from tomorrow. One thing is there's an age-friendly workshop, mainly on planning and zoning. Beth Harrington and advocacy and the Cornell University students who have been part of the Center for Excellence efforts do have a few things to say about our comprehensive plan in relation to other communities. So people may find it interesting. On April 20th. And if you go out to Tompkins County Office for the Aging, you can register for the workshop. That's at 9 a.m. At 10:30, oh, and if you ask me for it, I can just send you a link to that part of the website. At 10:30, TCOG Broadband Committee is having their kickoff meeting. So I just wanted to let about to start happening. And the only other thing I want to mention is it seems that maybe Marie Cope is on the FoodNet board, and they are working on a survey because they're considering a new kind of congregate meal for seniors. You know, right now, there really aren't congregate meals because of COVID, but before COVID, you could go someplace and there might be other seniors sitting down for a meal. I think they were doing it once a week. So now they're going to do a survey because they're looking into doing it at restaurants. And they're even considering Brookton's Market as a possible site. So I just thought I'd put a little buzz out there about it. They're looking at it. It's not a done deal yet. And that's all I have to report.
So is that congregate meal to be, I guess it would be a meal planned. Are they looking down the line after things open up even further, or with current COVID restrictions, or how does that work?
further down the line, and two MBA interns who are working with FoodNet are going to get Dog and Pony at the statewide Senior Action Council meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So if anyone wants to tune into that, even if it's just for the 15 minutes, looks to me like most people on this call qualify for filling out the survey. So you could get a little information about what kind of thing together. And send you that link.
What are you trying to tell us, Will?
You're muted all of a sudden, I guess.
Yeah, that was probably good.
This is great information. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Will. Or the privilege of the floor.
Try it.
Hey, this is Colin. I'm over at Ann and Andrew's house. I had tech issues and couldn't get on myself. But I wanted to speak to the food sovereignty movement that's on the agenda to be discussed later. I just wanted to a meeting about how important I feel this issue is and the great benefits it could bring to North Carolina if we could have a food sovereignty ordinance passed. The ability to allow more freedom for people to raise food and be able to transact with their friends and neighbors raising that food. This past year of living through a pandemic and going to the grocery store was rather alarming, and the ability to be able to source food from our local community feels more important than ever. And it would be wonderful if the town of Caroline could sort of be a leader on this front and help move something like this forward. I know there are issues. This is the town of Caroline. We're not the state or federal government, and so we can only level, but for us to do that. I could say a whole lot more, but I will leave it at that, and perhaps others will have things to say.
Great.
Yeah, and so I'm this is Andrew. I'm sitting right next to him, and I guess a couple of things I have to add in addition to, like, at least in our opinions, it just makes sense. I also feel like it ties into what you guys are doing right now with the work on going through the comprehensive plan and what everybody in the town wants the town to look like. Something that I actually spent a fair amount of time thinking about this week was the fact that farms are disappearing from Caroline, and there is still a fair amount of open land that is and as far as agricultural rent goes, it's pretty low here. And I feel like that leaves the town of Caroline vulnerable from, like, what I think about is not so much from development, either housing or commercial, but from looking at things like big commercial hog barns or like big commercial chicken barns. I feel like, or even honestly, big commercial dairy. I'm actually surprised that nobody has pursued putting any of those things in the town of Caroline, especially the big commercial chicken and hog barns, because there's something that like don't necessarily require really good agricultural ground. Like they just need a place to go. And so anyway, I feel like doing something that is not necessarily discouraging them, but encouraging the land in Caroline, with the type of agriculture that we want to see, could be something that's really good. And also on a side note, I actually did speak to someone from Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund this week, and they would absolutely be interested in somehow having communication with the town on like, you know, similar things that they've done with other people in the past and exchange and whatever. So that's out there. And if it's something you guys decide you're interested in, I'd be happy to try to facilitate that with somebody. And I'm all done.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Colin. We will be discussing it as a board later
Sure.
in the meeting, and we'll be, you know, then I'm sure we'll have questions, so we can circle back to you after that.
All right, great.
Anyone else have comments for the board? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. And if you do have trouble raising your hand, it looks like chat is enabled, which seems to be okay. You can chat, you can send me a chat and I can unmute you. So, but with that, we'll proceed to the town board business meeting. And I'll call for deletions or additions. And I have, let's see, I have one addition I would like to call executive session at the end of the meeting to discuss personnel matter. Other than that, anything else? No? Great. Okay. So, yeah.
Could we add a discussion of the ATV issue?
I guess. But do people want to? What? So that feels like a big thing to add at this point to me. But I'm certainly happy to talk about it if you want, or. But.
I just don't want it being forgotten about. Not that we have to come to a decision about things, but just.
Okay.
I think we could talk about it. To be honest.
Great. So let's add that on. Thank you. If everyone else is everyone comfortable with that? Great. Okay. So we'll add those two items. Thank you. So without further ado, we have Lisa Marshall here to talk to us about having a local Caroline clean heating and cooling campaign. So let's see. I'm trying to unmute her. It's not doing anything. There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
Thanks, Town of Caroline, for having me. I know some of you and some I haven't met before, but I am the relatively new program director for Heat Smart Tompkins, which I'm sure you all know started right in Caroline. And Caroline's been out in front on renewable energy and time. So the round 2 of the clean energy communities, which is, I believe, the grant that funded your Brighten Up Caroline program when round 1 is out, and they're calling it the leadership round. Don't know what that means, but you guys are definitely leaders. So of course, I approached Mark about a community campaign for clean heat, which is one of the bigger action items. And since Mark's on our board, he couldn't really say no. So.
Funny how that works.
That's right. Blackmail, I'll resort to anything. So I thought I would give you a brief presentation. I'm sure a lot of this will not be new to most of you, but I just want to get everybody on the same page about how we could partner, how Town of Caroline and Heat Smart Tompkins could partner together to have this a successful community campaign and what the benefits the Res Caroline. So and also I just should let you know I'm here under false pretenses. I live in Chemung County, so I creep up to Tompkins every once in a while and try to blend in, but I'm really from places beyond the bubble. Just want you to know. So do I have screen sharing enabled?
Not yet.
Mark? Just
We'll do that,
slides?
I think.
Okay. So not yet. Try that again.
Whoops,
Nope. You have disabled.
sorry, I did the
screen
wrong
share.
person. I redid. Okay.
Okie dokie. Let's try now. Oh, there we go. Something changed. Oh, I'm sharing the wrong thing. Hold on a second.
You enabled now?
Yes, I am. I'm going to pull up my slides. And there we go. So, chat from in earlier. There we go. Okay. You full screen. So Heat Smart is, as you probably already know, a community nonprofit. We do education and outreach.
It's still
Yes.
showing your chat screen or whatever. Yes, a bunch of notes.
Oh dear. Well, that's not good. Let's try this again. How silly. Let's try one more time. Here we go. That.
Great, everything's good now. Yep.
Okay, good. So we're a community nonprofit and we make no money off of any sales. We get funded whether, one person puts in a heat pump a year or 300 people, it doesn't matter. We just are responsible for doing the outreach and the education. And we are dedicated to really making sure everybody knows about the cost savings, the comfort and convenience, and the climate solutions that energy efficiency measures, and most especially heat pumps. So I mentioned before that Heat Smart started in Caroline as Solar Tompkins, and it was a community effort, a true grassroots effort, just a few people sitting around a kitchen table talking about what they could do locally to promote climate solutions. And that effort grew into a county-wide solarized campaign that was extremely successful. And out of that grew the Heat Smart program. Heat pump promotion is, it turns out, a bit harder than promoting solar. And it's also has more climate impact. So we moved on to something that was pretty new. And NYSERDA, New York State's Energy Research and Development Authority, loved what we were doing here in Tompkins County and decided to fund us and also to start to offer funding to other communities to do similar programs around New York State. And as of today, these are all the clean heating and cooling communities, i.e. heat. Most New York's residents are now served by a local Heat Smart program. So we're really proud of what started right in Caroline and how it's grown. And why do we need a Heat Smart program? Well, you've probably heard that we're in a bit of a climate crisis, and there's a need for us to drastically reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And where do those emissions come from in New York? Well, 30% of the emissions come from our buildings. And actually, you know that number is not correct because it doesn't include the leaked methane that actually doubles the impact of burning natural gas. And so really this building icon should grow up and be a bit bigger than this car. And buildings are actually the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions if you include the leaked methane. And luckily, not luckily, but due to a lot of hard work, we passed New York State's landmark climate legislation last year, the Climate Leadership and Community requires the state to reduce emissions from all sectors by 40% by 2030 and 85% by 2050. So tackling this greenhouse, the building sector, where most buildings have in their basements a little fossil fuel generating, little fossil fuel power plant for heating is a really big piece of that. And that's why we need to have a Heat Smart program. And how do we use energy? Some Minnesota, it's pretty similar to New York. More than half is heating and cooling. And actually that's a bit silly. It's really almost all heating, maybe just a tiny sliver, 1% is cooling. So most of what we do in our homes in terms of energy use is heating. Also, water heating is significant. This chart says 15%. I've seen 17%. I've seen 20%. So we could safely say between 15 and 20% of your home's energy use is for heating hot water. And there are heat that dramatically for both heating and hot water heating. So in short, Heat Smart recommends that people have their building envelope evaluated, meaning how well sealed and insulated is your building or your home. And that's because no matter what you're using to heat or cool your home, you want to keep that heated or cooled air inside and not let it go straight out the window or out the door or out the cracks. And secondly, and most importantly in this webinar, we recommend heat pumps for heating and cooling. Well, what the heck is a heat pump? Again, this is Caroline, so I know you're very educated about heat pumps. But in case you don't know, you already have a heat pump. It's in your refrigerator. And what keeps the inside of the refrigerator cool, and it works quite well. It is a closed loop system containing a refrigerant chemical and that transfers heat from the environment either into a space or out of a space. So when you evaporate that coolant and when condense it, it gives off heat. And so that simple principle of physics is what makes a heat pump work. So instead of creating heat through fossil fuel combustion, you're moving heat from the air or from the ground and using it to heat or cool your home. If you're cooling, you're moving the heat from inside your home to the outside. So that's one technology in many different flavors. Here's a few of the things we commonly see. Air source heat pumps and mini split. I've seen these. A lot of homes and businesses install similar units just for air conditioning, but if you get a high efficiency cold climate mini split, you can use it for a whole home heating and cooling solution. There are also centrally ducted air source heat pumps. Ground source heat pumps, like Mark has at his house. The heat is coming from the ground. So these ground loops are put into the earth, either in trenches, and is an expensive process up front, but then you have a system that is very long lasting and very durable and extremely efficient and inexpensive to run. And it can provide heating, it can provide cooling, and it can also heat your hot water, which is why it's on both sides of this little graphic. And then not to be outdone is the slightly unsung unit of the standalone heat pump water heater, which is a sort of a standard electric water heater with a little heat pump on top that preheats and makes it much more efficient to operate. So just to conclude why heat pumps, or why we're pumped about heat pumps, they're super duper energy efficient, 200 to 400% or even 500% efficient. They provide both heating and cooling. They dehumidify while they run. They can also heat hot water. They, since they're filtering and dehumidifying your air, they can pretty dramatically improve indoor air quality. We've heard is much better. People on oxygen say they didn't need to use their oxygen when they ran the heat pump. So it can really have a great effect. And they can dramatically reduce heating bills if you heat currently with propane, oil, or electric resistance. They're also super convenient, and I'm hearing now every day from people who are getting older. They've been heating with wood, heating with coal, heating with pellets, and they're worried about their ability to continue using those fuels that are just heavy and wanting to stay in their home. So they really like the idea of a heat pump where they could sit in the armchair and control their heating and cooling with a remote controller or with the thermostat, depending on the kind of heat pump. So convenience is the fourth C that I've added, the benefit of heat pumps. Cost savings is a very important thing. A lot of people in Caroline do not have access to natural gas, which is still pretty cheap, and are heating with propane, electric baseboard heating, or oil. And those fuels are, this is sort of a typical house. These data are from 2017 in Maine. So the numbers might not be quite accurate for 2021 in New York, but it's pretty similar. And this ASHP is air source heat pump. This GSHP is a ground source heat pump. So as you can see, if you're paying, upwards of $3,000 annually to heat your house, and you could cut that dramatically back, this system would pay for itself pretty quickly. I will say one friend heating with wood and propane was spending $3,000 a year. She got a ground source heat pump system, and she spends $400 a year to run it. That's without air conditioning. That's just the heating. So she tracks it very carefully in a spreadsheet. So I believe her numbers. It's pretty impressive. So, but heat pumps are more expensive still than traditional fossil fuel systems to install. And that's why energy advocates and climate activists have been demanding to put. So right now, and for the next 4 years, NYSEG is going to be offering rebates for ground source, air source heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. And the federal government is also offering tax credits, most specifically most importantly, this 26% federal tax credit for ground source heat pumps. That's quite a good benefit. But wait, there's more. So it's very fossil fuel to heat pumps and renewable energy that low and moderate income households are not left behind. And so there are special grants available for income qualified households, empower qualified households, depending on household size, qualify right now for a $10,000 grant. And assisted home performance and the eligibility for this program was greatly expanded as part of New York State's COVID response, qualifies for a $5,000 match. Also has additional grants that can be stacked on top of assisted home performance. We have Heat Smart grants and Finger Lakes Climate Fund grants available through our partnership with Sustainable Tompkins. So this is very exciting. These can be used for insulation upgrades, but in some cases also applied to heat pumps and heat pump water heaters as well. And I think a lot of people in Caroline, most people, probably 7 out of 10 people in Tompkins County do qualify for this assisted home performance level. So it's really covers quite a few people. So now New York State is trying to figure out how to make better policy to get everybody in a heat pump over the next decade. And so they're doing a demonstration study right now where they're dramatically discounting the prices for heat pump systems for 500 homes in the state, or $5 million worth of heat pump systems. And we're sort of in the middle of this campaign now. People who are not heating with gas qualify if they income qualify for one of the requirements. Their heating system has to be more than 5 years old. The home's insulation has to be either adequate to support a heat pump system or can be made adequate through the grant money that's available. So we really think that this is a program or a pilot study that we want everyone to know about to see if they can take advantage of it. For people getting air source heat pumps through Empower, I can give you an example. Oh, actually, I'm going to show you that example. So here's an example from gentleman in a mobile home. and is signed up to be part of the heat pump study. And through the Empower grant, he's getting, over $12,000 worth of upgrades to the mobile home itself, plus a $21,600 air source heat pump system. And all of that is exactly zero upfront cost to him through the heat pump study. So an unbelievable opportunity for this gentleman. Assisted home performance, the grants. One example, Groton, this is a family with young children, and they have an older farmhouse with a fairly big heating load that they're heating currently with oil. So they got two proposals, one for air source heat pumps. So here's the upfront cost, here's the rebate that everyone qualifies for. And then here's the additional grant for the pilot study. So the upfront cost to the customer would be less than $7,000 for a whole home system, not too bad. They also got a quote for a ground source. You can see it's much more expensive to install. And there's a generous rebate from NYSEG that everyone again qualifies for. But the heat pump study provided an additional $16,000, and the upfront cost to them would be $13,500. But since they earn enough to owe federal taxes, they're also going to be able to get a federal tax credit, which will bring their cost down after the tax credit to $10,000. So it'll be slightly under $7,000, over $10,000 at the end of the day for the ground source heat pumps, which, as I said, is a more efficient system and it's longer lasting. So since they're staying in their home for a long time, they thought they would spend the extra $3,000 and get the ground source. And also they can get low interest loans through New York State to finance this $13,685. So they don't have to have cash up front for that. And even paying that loan back, they're going to be saving a tremendous amount of money on their annually as compared to. Oh, the community campaigns for clean heat is part of the Clean Energy Communities program, which you may have had a presentation from Terry Carroll at Cooperative Extension about all the different action items that a community can take on. This is one of the 4 community campaigns that a municipality can do. The other ones are a solar campaign, a demand response campaign, which is like about thermostats, and an electric car campaign. So I'm recommending that you partner with Heat Smart Tompkins to do a community campaign for clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency. A successful campaign would mean 10 people in Caroline signed contracts in the time period of the campaign. 7 of those can be energy retrofits, so people just getting insulation done. At least three have to be heat pumps, but that includes a heat pump water heater. So a home that doesn't get a whole home heat pump system counts towards your completion. And if you are one of the first 100 communities to complete a campaign, you would get a $5,000 grant. And even if you're not one of the first 100, you're always going to get 200 points towards the Clean Energy Communities Leadership Round. They made it easier to spend the $5,000 grant this time around than last time. So it should be less paperwork and less red tape. And there's no time limit to complete this. The grants are limited grants, and the Clean Energy Community designations are always going to be awarded. So the steps for us to do together, if we do this, is to prepare a scoping document, which is really just a description of what the campaign is going to look like, who's going to participate, how we're going to run it, what events we'll do. NYSERDA will not hold us responsible to any of the things we say we're going to do. It's just showing good faith that we want to have a campaign that the town is doing some, so why not? 10 participants, again, is a successful campaign. I think I did 2 slides by mistake, so we're just going to skip this slide since it's repetitive. Sorry about that.
Great.
And ways that we can do outreach is we can host a webinar where Heat Smart and maybe Cooperative Extension both present. You could post about this on the town website, any town social media platforms. send it out to email lists, people put it on a calendar. If COVID allows, we could maybe have some lovely in-person events, down at the Brooktondale Market or something. If the town wanted to spend a modest amount of money on postcards, NYSERDA will pay 50% of your costs. So if you wanted to do like a $500 postcard run, it would cost the town only $250. We have a lot of Heat Smart yard signs, so the town could take responsibility for posting some of them out of my garage, so please take them. And a press release is nice to the local press, to cover the event. It's really, it's about the 10 signed contracts, but it's really not about the 10 signed contracts. It's really more about the town being a community partner and partnering with Heat Smart to continue to get the word out about the benefits to the climate and to the home of heat pumps and home energy efficiency. Is I will help you prepare the scoping document. I will track the leads. I will provide you with outreach materials, for your website, your newsletter, your social media, your flyers, whatever it is you want to do. I'll present at a community meeting or webinar, and most of all, make the process fun and easy so that we'll just enjoy working together, and it won't be too heavy a lift. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop talking and see if you guys have any questions.
It's okay.
I thought that was
Thank
just
you,
a
Lisa.
vocal supporter.
Great. So I'll open it up, and Catherine has a question.
Yeah, thank you so much for this. How do people enroll in the study?
They enroll in the study just by enrolling in with Heat Smart, and if they seem like a good candidate for the study, then when I send the lead to our contract heat pump study. We don't enroll in it separately. It just comes under Heat Smart. Yes, Tim.
Can you explain the procedure for the installation retrofits? I mean, do people get their own contractors? How does that work?
So we have a contractor that does installation. What I've been doing with the community campaigns is naming Cooperative Extension as and that way, if people sign up through the town, which I've been doing like separate sign up sheets for the town rather than going to the Heat Smart website, and I'm asking them what they're interested in. If they just say, I want a home energy audit in the installation, I consider that a lead for Get Your Greenback, and I send that lead to Get Your Greenback to follow up for a home energy audit. If they say they want heat pumps, then I consider it a heat pump lead, and I talk to the person about their needs, and I help them identify, send the lead to the contractor. But it's
And do they then sign the contract after that process?
well, they're never required to sign a contract, but the first step is through us, and the second step is they meet with the contractor for a free assessment. And then if they decide that the proposal they get from the contractor is something they want to go forward with, then they sign. And by the way, if they sign a contract that says, like this fellow with the $36,000 worth of free stuff, if his project isn't approved, contract, it's only contingent on the approval from NYSERDA. So it's not like they're going to turn around and say, well, now you have to pay us $36,000. No, it's just they needed his signature in order to submit it to NYSERDA. But if NYSERDA doesn't approve the project, then it just gets nulled out.
Okay.
Sorry, my dog's losing her mind. I don't.
Lisa, how can something be more than 100% efficient?
Isn't that a great question? Thank you for asking that question. The heat already exists, so it's not being created, it's being moved around. So like an electric resistance heater, a baseboard electric heater, for 1 unit of electricity in, you get 1 unit of heat out. For a heat pump, for 1 unit of electricity in, you get 2 to 5 units of heat out. So that's where that efficiency number comes from. And you actually, heat pumps are measured on something. And we have, you know, pretty good data on COPs from what the manufacturers say. Of course, your mileage may vary depending on how your system is designed, your house, the weather, how high you crank the thermostat, whether you listen to the contractor when they explain the best way to use your heat pump, or whether you just decided to use it the way you wanted to use it. There's a lot of factors in how it actually comes out. So sorry.
Does that make sense, Gal? Because yeah. So I think that's a great explanation, Lisa, that, you know, you're actually not, you're moving heat, you're not generating heat
That's
by
right. So,
chemical combustion. So
so the energy used is to run the heat pump.
Yeah.
And the heat pump is sucking up heat or giving off heat. Well, it's doing always both, but it depends which end you have it on. Heat out of the outside air and moving it into your house, or taking the heat in the inside, heat energy, thermal energy from the inside of your house and expelling it to the ground or the air outside. And so, of course, the efficiencies do vary, especially for air source. Like, you know, and the air source heat pumps are very efficient air conditioners. They're pretty efficient heaters for a lot of the year. They're not super duper efficient when it's super cold outside, because they have to work a lot harder to get heat out of the air when it's, you know, -10. Because there's thermal energy in the air until it's, you know, 0 degrees Kelvin, but there's less of it and they have to work harder to get it and move it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So they're not running very efficiently on those cold weeks. But luckily they still work fine down to even, you know, in the negative teens. And, you know, as you guys all know, we don't have that many cold days, super cold days in winter anymore, but we still have to be prepared for them, because polar vortices and all kinds of crazy things that happen. And you do have to be prepared for that. But I like to tell people, I traveled 2 years ago to my natural country of Norway, and Norway's a lot colder and everybody has the heat. Everybody. Every house that I stayed in Airbnb had either a ground source or air source heat pump system. My cousin had a ground source heat pump system in her beautiful early 1800s farmhouse, and then a brand new raising $800,000 chicken raising state-of-the-art facility, also with a ground source heat pump. It did have a gas backup, because if chickens get below a certain temperature when they're being raised, they just all die. And she's got like 20,000.
They're no longer chickens.
They're no longer chickens. She's got like 20,000 chickens in there at a time, so she can't afford for that to happen. But she's and they are even using cold climate heat pumps in places like North Dakota and Alaska and stuff now. So what wasn't possible 10 years ago is very possible now.
yeah. And it's not the temperature of the air. It's just you know, like Lisa said, it's just moving heat. So as long as there's heat content, you can do it. It is kind of magical to think of.
But it's just physics. But if you want to see Mark Whitmer's heat pump home tour, we have a cute little video and a little printout. You can see how his system works. It was installed by one of our installer partners, and it has 2 vertical boreholes, which now they tell me they would have just done 1 borehole, but they used to do 2. Now they try to just do 1 unless your heat load is absolutely huge. And it's a wonderful. How long have you had that now, Mark?
I agree. About 5 years. So
Do you know how much of your electric bill is you're running your heat pump?
Oh my gosh, I had that all figured out. I don't have it in front of me, so
I
I
think
can't,
it's on the,
I
I
can't
think
spit
it's
it
on
out.
I'm pretty sure it's on the case study printout that we made up. We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, great. I did provide the information, but I just don't. And yeah, so when we bought the house, one of the, super big ones in the back, and the previous owners, they had a propane heater in the basement that heated the whole house, and they were spending about $3,000 a year on the propane. So that was, you know, by moving quickly away from that, it we were saving pretty much all of that money.
And I believe that Mark, tax, it was 30% of tax credit when you did it, and you didn't know for more than 1 year, right?
Yep, we
So
did.
that is just a pretty nice benefit. You know, the tax credit was supposed to go to 22% this year, and Congress at the 11th hour extended the 26% for 2 more years.
Oh, really?
That's
Huh.
a great opportunity. Yeah,
Right.
we just did a little webinar today at noon. But I think that when you think about the town of Caroline, there's so many people that would benefit. That could just even could get. They don't have to change anything about their emergency upgrades. And as you probably know, you know, it does take for friends. A lot of times, low income folks are hesitant to get involved in these kinds of programs. They need to have somebody they trust before they're going to do it. My friend Becca, it took me like 5 years to get her to let one of the contractors come in her house, and then she just got like $20,000 worth of stuff. So there's a lot of they're dealing with a lot of things. There's just a lot of possibility of shame. There's the concern about being scammed, because there's a lot of scams out there. So I think having the town be an advocate along with Heat Smart is just a great way to talk about these things and just help some folks out. Was one of the energy injustices is a lot of the lowest income people are paying disproportionately the highest. Pretty sad because they're sort of stuck,
Yeah.
so
I thought it was cool that you had one of your examples was a mobile home that was.
Exactly. He's so excited, by the way. Oh my gosh, he's so excited to get his system put in. And I think
they live in the leakiest homes with the most inefficient, poorest heating systems.
yeah. And every day I talk to older folks. I've been shocked since this heat pump study started. I can chop wood anymore. I don't think I can carry coal or pellets anymore. I had no idea how many people were still heating with coal. I've talked to people who are heating with coal literally every day now for the last 3 months.
Wow.
I'm in shock. Just had no idea. I thought this was like a 1 in 1,000 thing. No, there's lots of people heating with coal.
Yeah.
So, there are also people worried about the air quality. They've got something old. They know that the air quality in their house isn't good, and they haven't been able to do it.
So what are our procedures at this stage?
Yeah.
So I think you could just vote on it, or you could pass a resolution. I don't know how formal you guys want to be, and I can duck out. And I actually have to go talk to Enfield now. So
Okay, and we have such a resolution on the agenda for tonight. So, and I am not to assume the votes of my board, but I do think that it's likely we'll pass it.
right.
So,
At least provide something very nice and warm to stand next to.
Yes, I know. It's when I was a kid, we had forced air, and we used to wear these flannel nightgowns. And when we heard the air come up, we would rush over and stand
Over the radiator.
Over the radiator. Heat pump's not like that. You have to set it and let it keep going. You don't want to turn it way down at night and then expect it to catch up in the morning. It's just not like that. If you want that blast of heat, you're gonna have
Yeah, one have in a corner of the house or something.
You gotta set something on fire if you want the big blast, but it is definitely a gentle, even heat is how it's generally described, and that is what it is. So, but you're absolutely right. If you want to come in out of the cold and like, you know, warm up your hands, make tea instead. So,
Great.
okay,
Well,
well, I'm happy to, you know, do as much or as little to help as the town needs. Some towns are very, keep up with them. Some others need more support. And my job is to just meet you where you are and to convince you to take all my yard signs off my hands. So those are basically my goals.
okay. We're very good. We're very good with yard signs here.
Oh, good.
So,
Good.
thank you so much, Lisa. That was very informative. And
You're welcome. Thanks
we'll-
to the miracle of Zoom, I can now go to Enfield.
telecommuting.
I know, it's amazing. Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you.
Dude,
And
thanks,
thank you
Lisa.
for your civic duty of serving the town. It's just such unsung work. It's so hard. And I admire you guys so much. I've spent a lot of time at town meetings in the last few years, and I never ceases to amaze me all the work that is going on. So thanks for taking time, especially in this time of COVID. This is showing real leadership and dedication, and I really admire you for it. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Lisa.
All right, have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Take care. I'll be in touch. Yeah. All right. With that, I will move on to the supervisor's report, my report, and notices from the Department of Transportation for 2 projects for culverts, one on Valley Road near Burns Road and one on Coddington Road near Caroline Depot Road. So those reports are in the correspondence folder. And I was solicited to provide a letter of support to Liz Cameron at the Health Department for a community development block grant for funds LMI households. So I did provide that on April 1st, and I hope that they will be, I think they're estimating it'll be enough funds for 70 such households in Tompkins County. And then sort of an overview of town board activities, what we've been up to. We put out the first town newsletter, and we'll be continuing thinking about the best process for that, but it seems to have gone fairly well. I have been back in contact with Guth DeConzo about the streetlight project, and so they proposed putting a devices on each streetlight that'll will be cellular communicators, because a lot of our streetlights are distant from one another. So the system, I think they call it, communicates at 1/3 of a mile or something, and a lot of our distances are longer than that. So that's what they proposed, and Bob and I met with them, and so I'm in agreement on that, I guess, and I'm open to any input people have.
Just a quick question on that, Mark.
Yeah.
Is there any concern about the communication structure with our current problem with that?
Well, I think there's a clear recognition that some of the streetlights currently would not, they would not report. They would basically not be included in the view that you would have. And the idea would be that we would grow into that as cell service improved.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's the. I think if I think they felt like this was the most reasonable, cost-effective way to address this. And the only, I mean, it's not really. It means that streetlights the outages are going to be less frequent because they're LEDs, and for a small segment of them that are hindered in this way, then we would be reporting them as we have in the past for replacement. But the others would be seen responsible for maintenance that will be contracting with. So I'm totally, I kept telling them, this is outside of I need you guys to tell me, what works. I'm not, skilled in this area. So that's what they recommend. So. And as you know, the bulb campaign Emily is leading is ramping up this month, and bulbs are being distributed all the time. Watershed Committee has a cleanup day coming right up on the 17th for maintaining your roadside or your ditch. That's different from the highway department's cleanup week, which will be April 26th through May 1st. Of that they believed we had unrecovered grant funds from an old creek project that was completed on 6 Mile Creek in 2014. So Barry gave me some information from that project, and Jesse and Velvet helped me recover financial documents, and the contractors provided me invoices, and I submitted that. So hopefully we'll be receiving those funds. Our plans for the AV system are moving right along. Renee's coming out tomorrow to begin installation and measurements. So I'll be joining him to help him with that. I think he said he's going to be putting brackets and mounting I think he's going to be mounting the television monitor. So that's exciting. I received the financial documents for the highway truck that Bobby is planning for next year. So working on that soon to get those documents in order. And then a couple final notes. I sent you a revised report today because the TCAT Transit Services meeting was this afternoon. Yesterday, there was a dedication of the TCAT bus stop at the Caroline Town Hall for David Barber, who is Don's brother, who you may remember passed away a little while ago. So was really well known. He rode the bus all the time, and he was known among the drivers and TCAT employees as TCAT Dave. And he lived at Fountain Manor. He was well known and well loved. And so there was a dedication. There's a plaque in the shelter now in honor of Dave, and it was a very nice event. TCAT, the TCAT folks came out. Don and his family came out, and that was cool. And then the other thing is, I learned today, so TCAT on Earth Day, next Thursday, April 22nd, they're going to be launching, they got 7 new all-electric buses. They're called Proterra buses. And they're going to, they expect 4 of those to be operational by the 22nd. And so there's going to be a public event at 10:30 on the Commons. To ride the electric buses after that. So that was a cool Earth Day event that I wanted to highlight. So that's my report. any other questions? I am all ears if people have more input on the streetlights, so. Great, okay. Questions, so, and Jessie has let me know that she's submitting a written report, but her internet is unstable and she's gonna not submit a verbal report tonight, but she will be submitting a written report. And so with that, Bobby, Highway Superintendent, do you have your
very long. You know, as Mark mentioned, cleanup week. We've posted it on the Facebook page. The town's page has been updated. Tomorrow we will put another reminder that this is strictly for Town of Caroline residents. I know Jesse's receiving phone calls. I have as well. A lot of people from out of town. So we just want to make it clear that this is strictly a Town of Caroline. Or, you know, at some point the cost is gonna, you know, overwhelm the benefit. So if we can keep it down to strictly our town residents, then hopefully it's something we can keep doing for a long time. Other than that, we're making headway on some spring projects. We've gotten a few roads patched up. We're making a plan to do some more paving this year. We did receive CHIPS work from the state yet, but we have some you know, projected numbers. They did reimburse us the 20% that we were docked last year. So that'll bring that number up, but then they also took away 5% this year. So to give you an actual number tonight would be hard. I gotta kind of make my way through the number game there and get the actual number. But the numbers have gone up. You know, a ballpark number is probably 60,000 over last year. So that'll, you know, pave a little bit more. So looking forward to getting those done. The truck is pretty much in the works. We did have not a major breakdown, but we had to send another truck out and have some motor work done. But we now have that back and running again. I think that pretty much, you know, sums it up as far as the highway department. I would like to bring one other thing up that has been mentioned to me. And I've heard some talk about planting a tree in memory of Dallas. Something was brought up to me today at the end of the afternoon, which I thought was actually a great idea, and I would like to get input from all of you. Mentioned about a park bench and sticking it in the Speedsville Square, potentially with that tree. And it was brought up by a couple of guys at work who wouldn't mind stopping by and having lunch with them, you know, every now and then on that park bench. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people in town that would like to do the same. If that's good with you, I can, you know, start working on some of those details, find out who runs this, you know, who's kind of taking, you know, there's been some kind of personnel changes down there. So I'll get some more information on that.
It's a great idea.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Those are all great suggestions, and those ideas have been floating around the town hall too. So I think we're all very supportive of that. So seems like a great spot for it too. Yeah, let's keep talking about it, Bob. Something, you know, yeah, whatever. Let's talk about it, because we were thinking about having something at the town hall too, or whatever. But
Okay, I will work on those details, which brings me to my next little, kind of a recognition project, so to say. Les Dean has been working, with the town for, I thought it was 50 years. This year is going on 51 years.
Mhm.
We talked about, doing a plaque or something of that sort. But it was brought up to my attention that back in the day, you used to get a gold watch when you retired, and that ended when Les retired. He didn't get that gold watch. And it's been mentioned that he's been waiting for that forever. So I thought maybe instead of that, plaque, maybe we could actually get him the watch he's been waiting for. 51 years of service. And he still helps us out, to this day drastically.
Yeah.
So, it'd be nice if we can get another, 51 years.
Get the man a watch.
I agree.
So yeah, and I had that on my tick list to mention tonight too, Bob. So I think it's a great idea to acknowledge Les's long service to the town.
A pocket watch,
They're all digital watches now.
Yeah, I don't know if I got to get a few more details on what it used to be.
okay.
But I can definitely get those details, and I'm sure Jesse can help me out with that.
Or, there's, a mantle clock, or, it's not a watch, but it's still something that could be nicely inscribed. And well, anyway.
Yep. So I'll work on that as well.
Yes.
And I think that's it for me, other than, as you all know, the bridge is coming out on Central Chapel Road. Shortly. I don't have the exact start date, but it's been put out to bid and accepted. So that project will start pretty soon. And I'm gonna have another meeting with some county members as far as the other two projects. I'm all for getting them done. It's all not time. We talked earlier about those phone calls that you get, and I don't want a lot of those phone calls for 3 detours in town. So if we can cut those projects, not cut them, down, but maybe space them out until at least, one of those is done. And
It's bad news when you get complaint phone calls when you're actually doing something.
yeah.
The one on Coddington, Bobby, I was looking at that going out to 96B, but if I understand where it is, it would just be to the east of Caroline Depot Road. Then, drivers on one side could go down Caroline Depot. On the other side, they could go down Bell School or Ridgeway to get towards the Ithaca direction.
The problem isn't the everyday driver. The problem is the truck traffic. So as you've seen on that potential detour is, so I don't know as if that detour has been completely cleared through the county. That detour uses King Road. And as everybody knows, there's a stop sign in the middle of King Road, and it's not going to be very good with truck traffic. So I haven't had a chance to sit down, with county guys and talk that through. But again, that is their project. It's not my project. So, but when it comes down to it, it's all their decision. But hopefully that doesn't start until, like I said, at least the Central Chapel Road job is done.
Okay, great.
And I think that's
Thanks
it
for
for
dealing
me.
with that. Okay, thank you, Bob. Great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mark, can I talk for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
So, so that project hits home because I'm on Caroline Depot. And so Bobby, I don't know if you're trucks are not going to want to do that long detour the way the county laid it out, or the New York State, whoever's actually laid the detour out. So my expectation is that more likely they're going to cut on Caroline Depot over to White Church. So if it would be possible to post that end of Caroline Depot as not, somehow just make it clear the trucks aren't supposed to go that way. I know the detour route them otherwise, but I don't know if we can post a weight limit, and it's a county road, so I don't know what it's supposed to take. But at any rate, anything to really encourage the trucks to not, to follow.
Yeah,
It's laid out.
yeah, and that's been a big problem on White Church Road for a long time. We have White Church Road posted at 10 ton, but I can go down there on any given day and follow a truck, chase them down, give them the business of, you're not supposed to be here, and half of them know it's just well, if we can take this 2 mile road compared to the 21 mile detour, we're gonna. But good part is I do have some connect, and maybe that will take care of some of that extra truck traffic. We also White Church Road is tentatively scheduled to get some blacktop work, and that's another concern, is I don't want to put this blacktop down and have it completely destroyed by heavy truck traffic. So it's an ongoing issue that we're going to try to take care of it. Yeah, I can mention that to the county too, about Caroline Depot and some potential postings.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that I agree. Enforcement is always the weak link, because right, you have to have someone sitting there pretty much all the time, and it's a hassle.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bob. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Dan, I believe. Dan Klein. Great.
Pretty quick report. Just the vaccination effort is going along really, really well in Tompkins County. We have the second highest vaccination rate of any county in the state. So it's really something to feel good about. The one county that's ahead of us is Hamilton County, which is way, way up north. And they only have 4,500 people in the whole county. So that doesn't really count, They don't need so many people to get a high percent. Or two ago, we passed our 1 millionth COVID test in Tompkins County. And I'm told that that's more than some states have in total. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've been told. So again, we've done a really nice job in Tompkins County of taking care of the infrastructure around the pandemic. And the only other thing I want to mention is the county highway projects. The list was released of the tentative projects for this year. For me to emphasize that the list is tentative because things can change. Things change all the time because of other emergencies that come up, because of weather issues, funding, all kinds of stuff can happen, right? So you may remember that last year, the county started paving Connington Road from the county line in Caroline, heading towards Ithaca. They got about 2 miles, I guess. And so this year the paving will continue. And then the section that was paved last year will be chip sealed this year. The new paving projects that are supposed to happen this season are Caroline Depot Road and Lounsbury Road. And then Central Chapel Road Bridge. So the last time I heard, the tentative construction for that was supposed to be in August. But I do have a morning at 9 o'clock, so I will get an update. If it changes, I'll try to let you know if they know yet. Everything's so tentative. And I just want to remind you about the Central Chapel Road Bridge, because I've gotten some calls about it and it's been discussed here at this meeting. So I just want to remind you of what I tell people when they ask about it, when they're concerned about emergency services. And that is that Um, Emergency services coming away on Buffalo really only adds a couple of minutes to the whole route. It's not quite as quick as it would be, but it's really just a couple of minutes long. And that concern was checked with all the fire departments in town, and they did not raise any concerns about that. So, emergency rescue isn't concerned. Residents probably should not be concerned. And that's my whole report.
Great, thank you, Dan. For Dan?
Could I add something real quick, Mark?
Sure, absolutely.
So to go along with what Dan has said, I've had multiple conversations, some good, some bad. And some of them, with my own family, and I actually had to point something out that the town of Caroline is unique in one way that stands out above, everybody else, is we have 3 fire departments in the town of Caroline. No. And that's the one thing that I've been pointing out is that, even though that's out, Speedsville is right around the corner, and they're more than willing to, to help out, during this time. And I guess a lot of people really haven't thought of it that way, that, there's these 3 groups of great people that are more than willing to, step up and help each other out. So just wanted to, point that out. Just along conversations, it'd be great.
Great. Yeah.
And
that is a great aspect of the town. So good. Okay. Thank you, Dan. That's great. Yep.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Any committee updates, liaison updates?
Just quick on the Highway Barn project. We are ready to begin interviewing 3 of the 6 firms that submitted, which is very, very exciting. And that will likely happen next week. Cal, I'll give you just a quick heads up. There's an email in your mailbox just checking on the date.
Yep. The 23rd, I think you said 22nd or 23rd.
23rd. Yeah, if that's good, then I will activate on that.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that will likely be.
Just followed up about this because I'm just kind of
I don't know
wondering.
what you're gonna say.
I'm wondering.
Yeah,
I'm wondering a little bit where we're at, like right now. So, the call that we put out was basically based on a projection that was done early last fall.
Correct.
We're already into almost May, and I'm wondering if your group has given further thought into whether we actually engage a company to investigate at this time 3 sites, whether it might be more efficient now just to throw down the gauntlet and commit, maybe having them come in and, let's just say hypothetically, review the current site and get their estimate of that site, just to kind of really speed things along a little bit and maybe economize, because I'm just wondering if we really, at this stage of the game, want to hire an outside company to come in and do a real estate evaluation. Do that ourselves.
So the proposal that we're looking at, Tim, is more than just that. That's really the first phase of it. It's, as you may recall, it's a multi-tiered thought. It's not just evaluating suitable sites, but it's then also working through the process of design and ultimately interfacing with a potential contractor if we decided to move forward. I don't think we've, and part of the reason we're here is that I certainly, and most of the folks available, don't have the expertise to make these evaluations. So part of what we're trying to look at with this is, 1, suitability of our current site, which may very well be where we go. suitability of the Perkins Road site, which might be an option. And then also just asking the question, are there any areas we should look at, right? So I don't agree with it. I think at least having that conversation at the starting phase is wise and worth the effort. And if we end up in our current site, great, that's okay too, right? But I don't see that necessarily as having been fully vetted as an option. I think it depends on what we want to build, how we want to build it, environmental factors, and a whole lot of other things that
Do these proposals come with timeframes in terms of how quickly people anticipate that they'll be able to do the work?
That would be
might have been outside the scope of the proposal.
Yeah, that would be probably part of the next phase of the negotiation. What's your concern?
Well, I mean, we got an email from one of the proposers worrying about the timeline, and it's a year ago last September, and I just would like us to be able to streamline this as easily as possible, so that, and the other concern that I have is in terms of financing the highway barns. We're currently in a really advantageous situation with very low interest rates, and I'll guarantee you those are just going to go away within the year, very, very quickly. So, I mean, generally my concern is just anxiety. And at this stage of the game, efficiency, because I think that at least we should be in a different mental state now in terms of contemplating possibilities than we would have been 18 months ago, maybe in terms of internal discussions with the committee and Bobby and et cetera, et cetera. So I just wouldn't like to see us retreading ground that maybe we might not need to retread at this stage.
Yeah.
And again, I'm just speaking very generally because I have
that I have a slightly different perspective. I kind of feel that we were pretty well set up almost a year ago to move the next stage, and the board really asked me to pull back and look at some other things, and that slowed it down. And so, okay, but you know, so to have that and then sort of feel like, okay, now hurry up is, you know, I am trying to move this, but I'm trying to move it hearing the feedback of my colleagues at the time, but also doing it in a pandemic environment and trying to be somewhat thoughtful in the process.
Yeah,
but I do feel we could have been farther along if we had made a different decision a year ago in terms of going with Lavarge's original proposal.
So with that, I mean, I guess I'll just chime in here. I just wondered if you've had any internal discussions like with your committee and Bob, and I mean, or it could be a board discussion about, you know, I mean, I don't look at this as so much as hurry up, but whether we have an opportunity here to say, you know, it really looks like, you know, our best option is to get a design for the current site, and we recognize we're going to remove the current building. So I think what you said, John, is that you know, it's not going to be 3 separate full designs for 3 separate sites or anything like that.
No. That starts with It starts with evaluation.
So.
I would ask this of you as my colleagues. Let me run the process. Let me move it forward. Every time we stop and pause, it makes it hard for me to do the job you've asked me to do. I'd like to hear from we're ready to talk to 3 firms and hopefully come back to the board next month and say, here's where we are, here are our options, which one, if they're acceptable, do we want to go with? And then we can shape, if we decide we don't want them to look at 3, we want them to just look at town properties, that's fine.
Mhm.
But to bring it back and kind of talk, you quite frankly, is making it difficult because it feels like we keep circling back, and it's frustrating,
So
So
I just, I think what your plan is great, John. I'm not, me personally, I'm not recommending you pull back on that or change it. I just, I think it's good for us to have frank discussions about where we're going and if we get a good proposal lined up, and then we can direct them more intentionally if we wish to, and have frank discussions with them. So I do appreciate the discussion.
I do as well, but
Some mood music.
TV in the background.
Great. Okay. Any other thoughts for John or feedback?
No, it's just helpful to be able to talk about this and think about options. And John, I wasn't encouraging us to skip corners. I was just wondering, if even once in choosing these amongst these 3, if once that done, if, I was just asking if you guys had given any consideration to streamlining it from that point on. I think I do want to say that my recollection is that what the board asked for the last time was just some multiple bids. So I don't think that we intended to slow things down that much, but I understand the frustration about that.
Yeah, and I do appreciate yours and the committee's work on this. So great, good discussion. Any other?
The zoning commission held its second meeting on Tuesday, beginning to review just some state documents about the relationship between comprehensive plans and zoning, and is now kind of hoping to have direction of a planner, which we're trying to work on acquiring. So, but it will meet again in 2 weeks on Tuesday.
And I have heard from some planning firms that are intending to submit something. So I just don't have anything yet. Great. Anything else? Okay, thank you. So with that, move on to the action items and offer the resolution for the town of Caroline heating campaign. I'll call it, I called it the heating and cooling campaign to lower residents' energy costs. So
Second,
do you have a second on that?
me.
Second from Catherine. And so discussion, I won't read the resolution. I thought Lisa covered the ground well, and I think she will, she'll do a lot of the lifting for us and make it a fun, like she said, a fun and productive exercise. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity to really help people in Caroline. So
He's an incredible salesperson, that's for sure.
yeah.
True, right? Yeah. This isn't a heavy lift for us as I say it, but it certainly our comprehensive plan and I think the work that we've been doing over the years. So let's do it, right?
Great. Okay. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you. All right. So with that, I'll move on to offering a resolution and Health Act. And do I have a second on that? Seconded from John.
Yep.
And I'll open discussion. And again, I don't think, if you'd like me to, I can read it, but it's pretty long. I think we all have read it, so, and understand it. It would be for universal health coverage in New York State. And the estimates would show that 90% of people would their costs. So I'm strongly supportive of this. Any other comments? Don sent us a comment. I agreed with that.
Yep. I think it's very telling, actually, that Don, who really has, through his work, helped us save a lot on healthcare costs as a municipality through the creation of the Health Consortium, nevertheless is in support with him. I totally agree. We should do this.
Great. Okay. So with that, I won't belabor the point unless anybody has anything more to say. I'll call for a vote. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Strong aye.
Great. Opposed? Wonderful. All right. Discussion of the local food and self-governance ordinance. The one that was provided by Andrew was from the town of Brownfield, Maine. So I'll open discussion of the sovereign food ordinance. And I just say, yeah, so I'm happy to offer some thoughts to kick it off, but if any, that'd be fine too.
Sure.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. So one, I want to say thank you for bringing it to us. I think we should always look at different and potentially innovative ways to help our community. As I read the what I believe is the ordinance from Maine, there were a couple of things that didn't seem clear to me. And I guess at a most basic level, it was trying to solve. I was looking for more data or just something more concrete that I wasn't seeing. I am also a little bit concerned about how it would address food safety. It felt like there was a little bit of implied trust in there, and I'd like to believe in the good intentions of all humans, but I've lived long enough to know that isn't always the case. So I'm kind of, I think I really do, and I'm not sure, on at least the read I've had, that I think it's something Caroline should pursue.
Tim?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this a little bit also last week, John, kind of basically coming up with the same questions. And I mean, I think all of us have questions about unclarity in relationship to New York State law to begin with. And I mean, I'm thinking that this might be an opportunity, instead of our starting at the ground zero and trying to come up with a law that we simply don't understand. It might be a good opportunity to respond to the comprehensive plan suggestion that we have an ag committee that could work with the board to to articulate various ways in which the town could support. Sure, and that might be a way to do it. And then if this was something that the Ag Committee itself ended up hashing out, then we could pursue it a little bit more aggressively. But and I understand, I really appreciate that it's this being brought to the attention of the board, but I'm just feeling like we need a lot more ground discussion of this sort of thing, and also more information from the agriculture we can do to assist and grow agriculture, which clearly we all want to do, and the comprehensive plan is like incredibly clear about that. And it was one of the aspects of it that I think received unanimous support across the town. I don't know if that's helpful, but this could be a really good opportunity. A committee.
With that, Cal?
It's a situation where the regulatory environment for ag, there's some way of like pushing back and saying, hey, as a small local government that's in touch with the local farmers within the community, what can we, it's a pushback against one more nail in a coffin, if you will. I mean, there's people that would like to see me put out of business making raw milk cheeses because they are just clearly very dangerous. There are people that would like to see church suppers closed down over, or community suppers closed down over food safety issues. You know, it's just, you know, how do you kind of push back? I mean, I don't think any law or ordinance we'd pass state, but it's just a way of, you know, planting a seed and sending something that might grow back up the regulatory and governmental highway that, hey, this is, you know, if somebody wants to go to a local farm and that he knows raises goats and would want to know if the farmer maybe would sell him a goat and help him butcher it for you're in violation of so many rules. And is it a food safety issue? Well, if you're there seeing, it's one thing if somebody's trying to sell something out of the back of a truck at a mall, but you know, a lot of this on-farm stuff is just becoming, I think, just where to, you know, potentially being your produce confiscated, just, I don't know, it's an issue that's, you know, one more rule, one more, you know, is it going to make things safer? Is it going to make things better? You know, do I want to trot out the idea of, you know, freedoms to make choices and people from themselves? To mind is helmets for, should we prohibit on a farm? Should, you know, I think if people know they have a right to in a precarious legal situation.
We'd probably disagree on that point, Cal.
Yeah.
Catherine,
So-
did you want to comment?
Sure. I mean, I think Cal's helping to articulate some of, you know, the questions that were already articulated in our discussion, you know, prior to the meeting in terms of policy, which is what, you know, like philosophically, I am just for, you know, to be clear, to particularly those who brought this to our attention, which I really appreciate, I'm like 100% on board with this. I mean, it's like a complete no-brainer to me, the statements and the aspirational statements and the general approach to food and culture and so that's not what is in question at all for me. My specific questions, and Cal's helped address them, because the ones that I came up with were raw milk and certain slaughter variances in terms of on-farm processing of animals and certain numbers and that kind of thing. So if that's are the current barriers, what are the current concerns specific to the town, because that's what we are trying to address. So for example, what is happening with the local slaughterhouse proposal, and what where are we with, like, do people need to ship their animals and how far and all of those things. I mean, that would be appropriate. I agree, I guess, with Tim to some degree on this. This is one initiative or potential initiative, but there are many others. And I would, of course, everyone who knows me knows I'm like all for more dialogue and, problem solving around ag in the town, particularly, relating to like small farms, because in the eyes of, many regulatory bodies, like they're farms even. And so that's a problem. But I don't know that this document from this particular town in Maine necessarily, deals with these particular items that are specific to Caroline, if that's making any sense. So I don't know, Mark, how you want to have this discussion, if those who are, I know are on the call now who presented this, if
Sure.
you want to,
I'm happy to do that. And I'll just follow up by saying I hear in all of the comments I've heard from the board, and those are similar thoughts that I had. I was looking for, I felt like I needed, what is the exact problem that we're trying to solve? And I think, we all, regulations are annoying and all, but there's a purpose to these. And I found a document today that, we all know that people get sick and people die from food poisoning every year. And so, these are measures that we take as a society to try to try to mitigate that. And it's, and it is recognized, and I found a document by the U.S. small farmers, the regulatory burden is higher. And that's, and so I like Tim's suggestion of an ag committee that would look into this more rigorously to see, what the current, so help us understand what the current situation is, and what we might be able to do to address it. So I'd be happy to answer that Andrew or Colin want to provide to us now at the meeting if they want to chime in. Are they still here? Did they go to bed?
Yeah. No, we're here. And I would love to share a few things. This is Colin speaking. A couple of things that I've heard mentioned just now about sort of the need to sort of trust someone when it comes to getting food. Bad nature. I think the desire for this is not to. This is for direct to consumer. This is one person interacting with another person when it comes to providing food. And it isn't for commercial or wholesale sales. It is direct to consumer. And so I don't think that is really an issue with thing that was coming up about when it comes to food safety. I would say 99% of the meat that I have eaten in the last 5 to 10 years has been meat that I've processed on my farm, not being a certified facility by state or federal regulators. And neither me nor any of the members of my family have had any food poisoning or illness. Lots of meat to my friends and family, and there's been no issues. Again, I process a handful of animals myself for my own and my friends and family's consumption. Most food outbreaks that occur are coming from industrial agriculture, are not coming from small scale farmers. And so I don't think that the is an issue. That there is sort of, I forget the exact wording, it's something like a waiver of liability. We're going to let people trust one another. We're going to let people like take a chance and supply, get their own food. There certainly are, there are disease outbreaks from bad food coming from industrial agriculture and not small scale producers.
Colin, I have a question for you. I just want to make sure.
Sure.
A point you're making. So if I heard you right, what I think you said was you're not talking commercial use. So if I heard that, did I not hear that right? Or
well, so it is for me to sell any meat that I process. What I am dealing with is not commercial, but I'm trying to run a farm, and it's hard to run a farm when I can't sell my product.
So you are actually talking that the intent behind this proposal would be so that you would be able to take something you're kind of doing for friends and family and commercialize it. Is that correct?
Yes, to be able to sell it direct to consumer.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And if I can interject, maybe I didn't, kind of the point I was trying to make before is on person to person transactions. Do you need, is it for regulatory to be butting in, if you will, on what seems like are person to person transactions? You know, the jungle where, you know, huge slaughterhouses were adulterating food and selling it as wholesome. But where somebody's coming to a farm, you know, observing the production and preparation procedures. And if they're okay with it, I just feel it's overreach.
Sure.
On the part of regulatory.
Can I ask how, because I hear Cal, I obviously know very, understanding what this concern is. I guess I'm not clear on what this law, so let's say the town adopts this law. It would be a local law that would, I'm not sure how, like if it even could do this, but the proposal is that the local law would somehow supersede state and a farm like Collins.
We can't do, I don't think we could do anything to allow that. It's just, it's just trying to make a point, you know, that maybe feeds back up through the bureaucracy that most of the regulations I feel are made for big corporations, and there's I don't think that a lot of the regulations apply for very small businesses. There are forms that I have to submit that I have to lie on because
This meeting's being
the
recorded.
regulation says, I don't care. Because I know these people, and they know me, and don't have, you can't do this, but also says you have to do this, and well, you just, everybody knows Cal's lying because otherwise he's in violation of the regulations, and then he wouldn't. I don't know how it would play out, but I just have to lie on certain forms that have to be submitted because to comply with the regulations, and they know that I'm not doing anything wrong in what I'm doing, but just because to satisfy the rule.
That goes to my question, which is sort of an analogy I think of is the solar siting law that we're going to discuss next, is that it has different requirements for different sizes of projects. And so when I was thinking about this whole issue, I was thinking, you know, I mean, you know, is it possible, or, you know, I don't even, the landscape is right now, but is it, or it may be possible to, you know, recommend or create modifications of the regulations that so that it's sensitive and that it, you know, and it recognizes the different environment, the different situation for small producers.
And that is contingent on accepting that the local people know what's going on locally. And then you've got brush, and here's what everybody.
Can I chime in?
Yes, Andrew.
Please
all
do.
right, so they brought up last week is right. So there is, at this point, there is state legislature in Maine basically allowing municipalities to pass ordinances like this. Was passed in Maine. That state legislature was not there. And there was some ensuing legal battle between a farmer and I can't remember if it was state or federal. Colin said it was state ag. But anyway, so basically like after this like happened, Maine basically gave municipalities authority to like, you know, uphold laws like this. So with this is like, right, basically like that legislature only exists in Maine because there was a municipality that was willing to put down on paper and say, you know what, within our municipality, if somebody wants to go to a farm and buy food direct from a farmer, they should be allowed to. Like that is an undeniable right. And I guess that honestly, both as farmers and as the inalienable right. If I want to go and buy food from my neighbor, that is nobody's business.
Yeah, I hear that, and that you hit on one of the things that I thought with this proposal is that really what you're looking to do is establish a test case in New York. We can't use Maine law as a basis. It has no. So really, I get it. I think it's very clever, by the way, to look at home rule in this way. I don't necessarily know that Caroline should move forward on that. I think that opens us up to potential liabilities, and having part of my responsibility be fiduciary care, that concerns me. I am curious, have you brought this to any other municipalities? Like Andrew, I think your farm is in Trumansburg. Is that true? In Caroline. Okay, I must have pulled up bad information. Okay.
When I read the law in the Maine law, it exempted. I thought I read that it exempts meat and poultry, and that was because if they didn't create that exemption, the USDA was going to lower the boom or something like that.
Yeah, so they're how it ended up being written was basically like the way that meat and animal products were included in that. And it was like, it must have been some sort of a concession where herd share and cooperative animal ownership, which are, I mean, interestingly enough, those are things that like in New York State and federally are neither prohibited or regulated. Of how they included meat and animal products in that without directly violating state or federal legislation. Which anyway, like I said, I mean, the reason why I suggested if this is something that the town board has any interest in is talking to Farm to Consumer Legal Defense Fund, because they're basically like, they're a not-for-profit legal organization that has the expertise and knowledge. Like, this is what they do every day. And like I said, I actually spoke to however we want to do that, whether it's the board or an ag committee or however.
I just don't think that the board is right now to understand the issues in order for us to engage in that legal conversation yet. So I think I'd go back to my original suggestion and see if we can't, very much like did last fall, where that task force did a lot of the legal research, looked up state law, gathered the facts, helped inform the board, and then we understood how to move forward. And it'll take a little while, but we couldn't do this overnight anyway. We'd put ourselves, the town, in tremendous legal jeopardy. So we would need to move forward in a really knowledgeable way. I can't imagine some kinds of solutions in regards to this, or at least understand the problem better, so that maybe we could also then begin conversations with our state legislator and that sort of, and go in that route as well. Because I'm not sure it would be productive for us to just kind of cowboy go out on our own without first establishing a serious groundwork. Other in the state.
I agree with that.
Do you guys know if like Cooperative Extension's doing anything on this, or the Cornell like small program or anything?
I know that I've been making some efforts to try to reach out to Groundswell. I know that they food sovereignty is something that is important to Groundswell. Not made, but that I do know folks in both Dryden and in Danby that are also interested in this issue. But again, this is a nascent thing.
Okay.
Um,
'Cause it just seems,
I
I mean,
would-
I'm happy to like offer myself as an interested liaising human for this. If that's, you know, I also don't farmer. That makes much more sense. But you know, you to feel like there's not support for this. It's not the case at all. I have a, you know, I'm the for and like you've run into like in Caroline, that would be seat of those, and I can, you know, do the groundwork to like share that with the board if that would be helpful for you.
So we have a liaison.
Just trying to be helpful.
I
love it. That's
Yeah, I mean that would be great as long as yeah, I mean I feel like we're definitely hearing a fair amount of concern, and I guess speaking for both of us, we're not bringing this up in a way that's suggesting that like as you put it, we just sort of cowboy into this and do it in a way that is not been seeking legal counsel from somebody who has expertise in this matter. But yeah, Catherine, if you'd be willing to have more conversation, if that's like something that the whole town board is in agreement with, and Cal too. I mean, I feel like if both of you would be interested in talking about it, because Cal, it's something that like, you know, I feel like hits closer to home with you, then that'd be fantastic. Like, having more conversation about it is probably going to be
board wanted to convene an ag committee, I would be happy to serve on that and help forward the understanding of the issues and solutions.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. And I also don't know, jump in more experienced people if I'm like, this is totally not possible, but there activity on this as well. You know, there are things that are specific to, I'm getting nods, so I'm going to keep speaking. So there, you know, there are things that are specific to Caroline, right? Which is what you are bringing to us as a board. But, you know, I'm hearing already like Danby, Dryden, Caroline, like there are lots of collaborative, this is like a, I think, power in numbers kind of issue also. So if you have contacts, as I'm sure you do, but you guys could form, you know, I don't know, whatever, intertown agricultural initiative or something. I just made that up. But, you know, and then talk about this and then bring it to your respective town boards and like stop
So
here,
there's something
I
that
guess. I'm just
more than just one
myself.
township, but at least maybe multiple townships would push something forward and it would have a little more
Right.
weight.
You know, if you had a county-wide initiative, I mean, who knows?
You know, there is like a county ag group, right, with cooperative extension. So I don't know if this is something that they think about. The other thing, Colin, you mentioned convening an ag committee. So my recommendation would be for, you know, this would be an advisory committee to the town board. And so if you, I know it'd be, you know, ask you to pull together, you know, or it could be, you know, there could be recommendations or whatever. But if you have a people or a group that you think would want to serve on such a committee, that would be great.
Yeah, how would that process work?
Well, I think you just, once you felt like you had whatever, a snow, and we
Mark,
could,
wouldn't it be perhaps more efficient and if not official for the town to initiate the establishment of an ag committee and then
Hmm.
call for applications like we do for our other committees,
Hmm.
which obviously these guys would be part of, and we would hope that they would apply, and obviously we would want their participation. But if we just rely on
Yeah.
small on their own, that we
Yeah.
might not get the broad participation we might otherwise
Right.
be able to get across the town, etc.
No, that makes sense, Tim. That's good.
Doesn't Jonathan Bates have some sort of group going?
He does. Yeah. He or others on their group may be interested in participating. So
Maybe next time, or we can put together a resolution to create said committee, and then you guys and others would committee, and then we would do a good thing.
You
How's
didn't
that?
know it came with a knighthood, did you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I hate to sound like a Cassandra, but something's got to get done, or the state regulatory agencies are going to just suffocate small farms because they need these niche markets.
So I think we have a good plan so maybe we'll do that in May at our May meeting, put forward a resolution for the formation of this committee.
Great.
That sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Bill has had his hand up for about an hour.
Oh, really?
No, just.
He
the
has,
last
I've
few
been
minutes
timing
again.
him.
I took it down, I put it back up again. Just a few quick comments on this issue, which I find quite interesting. But at the third workshop the planning board held for the comprehensive plan, which focused a lot on like agricultural and rural character, there was ag committee, which is why that line's in the comp plan. But sort of it was going to form at that time, and it sort of didn't. And the reason it didn't, it sort of be a more board would at the time, sort of expecting a bunch of townsfolk to get together and really feel empowered. So remembering the fighting to this, which is there was a question as to whether municipality, did the state have presence, did it not? And in Tompkins County, a number of the municipalities were ready who's going to first. And there was a lot of legal work done by the Slotchies to give the ammo for that. But it wasn't until basically the town of Ithaca, the town of Dryden, and the town of
Ulysses.
Ulysses were all it happened. Dryden wound up being the one sued, but it was that no one wanted to be first. And so I think this idea of reaching out to the other towns is a good one. And I think the developing the legal analysis is good, because you need to have it. No one wants to just, like I say, be a cowboy. I think it's a great idea if it's possible. I expect the legal situation is more clear and unfortunately more unhelpful to the municipalities on this issue. But I'm with Cal. I hope that there could be a way to loosen up some space for the direct to consumer sort of sales.
Right.
So I'm speaking privilege of floor out of turn, but there you go.
Thank you, Bill.
No, thank you.
Great. Good. We have a plan. Thank you all. Move on. Thanks very much. That was a good discussion. Discussion of solar siting law. And thank you so much, Bill, for your hard work on this and the notes that you sent, which were really, really helpful.
Yeah, that went echo that.
Wish I'd gotten them to you with more time for you to deliberate on them, but oh well, things got in the way.
It's okay.
We've got them now, and they're very helpful. So I found it very, so first of all, in reading the law, I found it very clear and well structured, and really pretty easy to navigate. And the main thing pulled out of your notes is that a lot of the particulars are follow the ORI's, the state regulations, or are less stringent than the state regulations in a lot of cases. So, and I think that was a really good, shrewd move. I think that was great. And that gives me, you know, I think gives me reassurance. It makes me feel like it's well put together. Yeah, and large solar systems, there's a requirement environmental monitors or whatever, and that the guy said that that was untested water, which we seem to be talking about a lot tonight. So
so what we propose for Caroline is that basically if the code officer feels that the developer is in violation of what they said they were going to do, that then a monitor be hired. So in other words, we weren't asking, because we do expect these, well, there's going to be large businesses. They're not going to be the ones putting in the gargantuan, 100 megawatt plants. So I didn't want to, we felt it wasn't necessarily right to require it. If they're going to be good actors, so they're going to be good, business in violation, then they're going to have to foot the bill for a monitor. But making that, not
great. So that would, yeah.
Well, I just had two. To put this out for a public hearing pretty quickly, I can't remember exactly what these sections are, but in 7.2, number 1, this is the seeker section for both the large and the middle. The law mentions also a teaker, and I guess since we don't have a teaker, whether this isn't premature to put in this law at this time. That's just a question I had, whether the planning board considered that or not, because we probably have to pass a teacher first.
So that's an open question. There's a couple times where it's something like that, and that's the main one in this one, but also impacts. The analysis is supposed to take into account Caroline designated scenic vistas, of which there are none also. We don't have such a list. The language was included in the law, so, and this would be get advice from Guy, that it doesn't matter since there isn't one, that doesn't add a requirement, but then if you do pass a teaker, then it applies without having to modify this law. That maybe that's not a good idea, but that's why those two things, the teaker and that scenic, having to at some future date.
Yeah,
So
I guess
it's up
I
to
was
you and Guy whether it's
I mean, I was just wondering what it would mean for an applicant to be required to do a teaker when we don't have one.
Yeah, and that's a good question. And Guy may say, "Oh, it doesn't matter," or "Geez, you can't ask for that."
Right.
In the law. I don't know the answer to that
It's
question.
just something I noticed when I was reading through it.
Yeah. Okay.
You had two questions. Was that the two wrapped into one?
Then the other one I think might have been just to the bird natural inventory situation. I'm still a little bit uncomfortable with some of that, which we also hashed out in the task force. I mean, I'm quite sure by the the two classifications on the lower rank, So it's,
Yeah, I mean, okay. Owned. First off, in terms of what species are applicable, that's going to be there's a list, right? There's a state designated
Right.
list of which ones, and then whether or not the particular habitat is appropriate for that, whatever. Good question, but is it, not just there are resources to draw on. I would think that yes, they would have to hire someone like John Confer, or someone else that does exist, I know, in this area to do that kind of survey work. How expensive is that? I don't know. Are these people in short supply? I don't know. So
It's
good
just a
questions,
question.
but it wasn't like it was impossible to find someone to do that work. Yes, but it's something I wouldn't expect the company to necessarily have a person on staff that would do it. They would have to hire an outside
I
consultant.
mean, I think personally than I am in the site review context, which would apply to smaller builders, So
I mean,
a large corporation, let them hire somebody.
and that's partly why. So you notice that the right, and so for the medium scale, there's a much lighter ask in terms of that. It's mostly like, is it a wetland or not, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I will, to add a little bit of info. I mean, there is a for breeding birds, there is, every 20 years. Mark knows about this, and so that is on a base. I think the blocks are around a 3 by 3 miles. So there's a number of them in Caroline. So that would be at least a rough estimate, where there's
Mhm.
existing data that tells you what kind of birds are going to breed, have been seen to breed in this area.
Thanks. Overall, I just think the planning board did an incredible job, articulating this law in such a short period of time.
A lot of people work.
I think similar to, like, for me, like the site plan review. In terms up and line, is a design standard, like what is suggest bird versus, like, are we bird to the project, or is it as when I was allowed to give feedback when I was on the planning board, I had to shut my mouth, but that was kind of always my question, because I really always wanted to know, like, what does this really mean? Well, we're gonna have grazing small ruminants, rather than herbicides. Like, are we as a town then gonna mandate that, like, every solar installation in our town must have that? I mean, it would be fine with me personally, but I don't know that, like, can we do that?
That's not the language you have, right, Bill?
Well, and that's why it's that way. So, so I didn't know if Catherine, that was the question, is that I agree with those concerns, and basically based on the initial require. Perforce is aspirational, but at least it gives clear guidance, hopefully. But yeah, if someone really came in here and said, I don't give a crap, I'm gonna do it this way, the town probably has relatively little firepower in terms of requiring. And usually in terms of environmental stuff, it's always mitigation, right? So it's not necessarily that you can't do X, but if you're going to be in that area, you've got to take these extra. And sometimes DEC feels you can run a tractor or something through a wetland, and somehow that's not going to be a problem. You can somehow mitigate that, but I mean, you're going to do damage, right? There's just, you can't mitigate to zero, and yet their opinion seems to be you can mitigate to zero, which I just disagree with. I think it's fine to say we're going to mitigate it to be the least amount of harm, and that's what I would hope would happen. But I just, that's, sorry, tirade. So I think most of it is aspirational, other than, you got to go through a lot more hoops if you're a big company putting in a big project, and you've got to justify in that bird habitat rather than reconfigured to go around it. And that was the best I thought we could do in terms of that question, because that's, I think we have relatively few true levers of power.
Yeah. So for your large facilities, they're listed as design requirements. And then,
Yeah, I stole Catherine's language.
yeah, that's great. And then so extent, but then the setbacks are absolute. They have to comply with those things. So height requirements, those are absolute.
Yeah.
So.
And again, I think that if we had said height requirement 12 feet, I think the town, and someone said, we just, we're not going to do that. And I think the point is they could have petitioned the state, and the state said, you're right, that's unduly burdensome. And so, but it'd be kind of weird for the state to say, because that happened, it's 20 feet. Lansing had 18, another municipality had 16. We could do that too, and it's possible to be fine. I think the current proposed development is not going to have something over 15 or 16 feet, somewhere in that ballpark, if I remember them saying right. So anyway, that was a choice, and we, in the end, Hamden Hodva chose to go with the state level. The discussion wound up saying, that will give more flexibility to developers. We're not trying to discourage this sort of stuff. We just want it done. Important flexibility in how they configure or orient or do or whatever. So the higher height was chosen in the end.
Okay.
Did I see a design requirement about the fencing that they would have to use or could not use at the perimeter?
So that too is a recommend. It says this strong, I think it says, such and such, I think are discouraged. I can't remember the final language. We should find that. So first off, fencing itself is not required by this law. Code anyway, but the town itself is not saying it requires the fencing, but it says that the fencing should draw on the agricultural aesthetic of the town, for example, by using livestock fencing or wooden posts. And then about other stuff like chain link, barbed wire, that kind of stuff are strongly discouraged. So what does that really mean? Okay. You got me, but it's showing a clear preference on the town's part, but whether we could, take someone, as they said, we're going to put up a chain link fence, that's what you should be getting advice from Guy on, because I can't say. I think his take on site plan review is basically if a applicant is generally in compliance with the site plan requirements, but they're violating one or two, that's life. But if they're going to violate a whole lot of them, then it gives you grounds for saying no.
Okay.
But they're not specific, it doesn't say like razor wire is prohibited, for example.
Right. Because
well,
I just thought if they're going to put sheep or goats for grounds maintenance, I like the idea of chain link fence. So.
Well, that's livestock fencing, right? I mean, you've got that. That's what that can hold back a cow or horse or a sheep, I would think.
Yeah. But anyway.
Great.
So are we ready to send this out?
I think what we should do is we have two sections that need to be modified by Guy or, filled in by Guy. I have some little dinky editorial things that are fairly small. So I think we should send it to Guy with, any other comments for his review. What was Guy looked at this recently, right, Bill? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, and I think I copied you on his, or to what he saw. he'll
Yeah.
need to go through it again,
Yeah.
you know, top to bottom, I'm sure.
So
But,
that would be
but
quick.
in having done that, I mean, clearly he had read it because he gave me comments, but he basically said, I'm not going to comment on this because look, you're still working on it. So I had written him some basic questions he responded to, but he basically, other than a few comments like about the ag monitor or the environmental monitor and a couple other little pieces, he declined to comment document.
But I do recall him, I think, giving it a fairly strong endorsement overall. So,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That must have been private too. I didn't get much engagement from him one way or the other.
Okay, great. So, so that's my suggestion, is to send it to Guy, and when he gives it back to us, then we could schedule a public hearing.
I think it's your keep moving this along.
Mhm.
And get it to Guy right away, and perhaps then at your next meeting, discuss his comments and get a hearing scheduled. I think that,
Okay.
you know, we've already have one application for,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
to get
Yeah.
on the waiver. And, you know, these are hot projects. I think it would be nice to have this on the books as soon as possible.
Right, I agree. So I think we could anticipate having the public hearing and then move forward from there. Because I would think by the agenda meeting, we could certainly have Guy's comments by then, discuss it, schedule the meeting, and go from there.
Great. I mean, I will say, you know, it is a dense law. You may want to make sure the public has, because I know you have to, the final copy you're going to look at, and if you're going to change it based on Guy's comments, you only have 7 or 8 days between your agenda meeting and your business meeting. So you may, after your business meeting, just to give the public a couple of weeks to look at this.
That's a good point. So we could have a special meeting just for this and do that. That, yeah, I agree with that. Good. Any other comments or? Great. Okay. Thanks so much, Bill.
Okay.
Fabulous
No problem.
work,
Thank
Bill.
you, guys. All right. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. I will let the
Great.
committee know.
Thank you. Moving along, I don't have any transfers tonight. Offer the resolution to pay the town bills. And let's see.
Do we get enough signatures on the vouchers? I totally forgot. I thought it was my month to do it, and I totally forgot.
No, we got them. Tim and John did the
Okay.
signature. We're
I
all
think
set.
what's happened, Cal, is we just kind of flipped the rotation. So now it's you and Catherine, Right?
That's why I didn't get a poke then.
Right. You're reprieved.
Okay.
Plus, we didn't know if you would be able to see them.
Some days
Ouch.
some days not. Some days not.
We'll do it next month, Cal.
Next month, you will definitely be able to.
Talk about slaughtering and raw milk while we do it.
Gets me amped up.
Grimace.
All right.
Ever.
Okay,
A fund in the amount of $22,104.62.
second,
Hang on, highway fund in the amount of $50,547.46, and streetlights in the amount of $246.86. Do I have a second?
second 3 times.
Seconded by Tim. And discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, we got the it's of April 6th. Great.
Bravo.
Hearing no comments, the minutes of April 6th are hereby approved. And so the other thing is Bobby mentioned, I just wanted to mention a couple things. Well, Bobby mentioned Lestine has been uh, "51 years." We thought it was 50. So, so I don't know. I think it might be nice to have an event as well, to celebrate his long tenure. So we should maybe think about doing something like that in the summer months, or pretty soon. I think fairly soon.
Back to the watch thing, I could maybe for long something kind of
Yeah.
similar.
So if you want, you might want to touch base with Bob on that, but that's fine with me. Yeah.
What would you think, Bob?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just
I mean,
get hold of me.
what I was thinking was I'd check with Tommy Whitaker because his dad worked for the town for a lot of years. And he might have his dad, if he got a
Replicate it as close as we can.
yeah, something like that. I don't know. At least that's what comes to mind.
That's a cool idea.
So
Great.
I'll get a hold of Tommy.
Okay.
The other thing that I wanted to see, I wanted to briefly discuss, actually, so Cal, you
Where are we going with it? I double checked the DMV's website on the rules on ATVs today, just to refresh my memory, and just, I think we've got a list of the trails and roads, and I don't know, I'd like to see us move forward with it. I would myself misunderstanding that we could just, that town roads could be open to ATV use, and that was incorrect.
That's right.
It can just be, it has to be posted, designated, it has to be between trails. So we've got a list of the trails, and it's something that I see people doing a lot, and they're using town road people. I don't know. I'd like to see us move ahead forward.
So yeah. So I'll just chime in here. I mean, I think we're all in the same boat, Cal. So, and this is something that, we're free to discuss, outside of the meeting. And so, and
Okay.
I hope we will. But to me, the last was our specific sections of roads that would be required to connect existing trails, authorized, allowed, that existing trails for ATVs that would be open to the public. So the last map that I saw, that I provided to you all, couldn't, like we were opening, large sections of roads to ATVs.
Yeah, and
that's-
just from reviewing DMV's regulations, you're right on. It has to be between designated or, just understood trails. We can't just open
Mhm.
all of Buffalo Road
Oh,
so that
and I-
Cal can
So everybody's,
go up the road
Yeah.
So
legally.
Cal, do you have an understanding of, I'll speak for myself, that I don't have? Like, what's the current map that you're going off of? Because maybe you just know something I don't. Very possible.
No, I don't know off the top of my head that well, just,
Okay.
know, the ATV club knows more designated trails, and it does have to be between designated or designated understood trail. This is okay to use.
Right. So just to make sure everybody's aware that under the current topics, we still do have the folder there with tons of information,
Okay.
including Jesse's great minutes from the meeting that Guy came and spoke to us, and you know, he led that meeting. So
Yeah, I think, or maybe just for myself, it's just there's so many. I think it's just something that I want to see us keep working on and not get dropped to the bottom of the list.
I mean, my understanding is that we were just waiting for the specific maps so that we could move forward on this, and we're just ready to go as soon as we're provided with, you know, the detailed maps.
Big things in quiet ground. I'm actually a member of the ATV club and have turned into the new spokesperson.
Are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah. And you know, so where some of it gets a little harder to understand is it's not just a, you know, if you looked at the trail, it's not a circle. So from, you know, as you know, some of these roads are long roads. And all of these roads, I could say all of these roads are in the Speedsville area. You know, nothing goes, you know, as far as, nothing even goes as far as the highway barns. It's all out, you know, backwoods, back country. And I think that the confusions come in. And when we marked these consideration coming from this trail and go this way to get on the trail over here. But if you're coming from the whole other end of route to go from feet here and then another distance, just seemed to make it more confusing. And to try to label all of that was, you know,
in other words, you might want to go, and so why not just designate all of 1, 2, and 3?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So it, you know, it kind of looks like spaghetti. You know, there's fingers here and fingers here. But like I said, they all come out, you know, to these long roads that you can get on at 3 or 4 different points.
I guess so. Bobby, and I guess particular specific is like, let's take Leonard
Sure.
Road, right? So that's on the map that was provided, and all of Leonard is yellow, I believe, on that map, which is like proposed, you know, we want to ride this road. And then there's a designation that says trailhead at the top of Leonard, but of course Leonard is on Bald Hill School. That's not, you know, so an intersection of 2 roads isn't a trailhead. Leonard, you'd be on Braley Hill, but you could turn off into the, you know, you'd be on Shindagan there or Cornell Land. Like there's nothing there other than what I've just mentioned. So I guess for me in that like particular area, like that's why the map doesn't maybe Like I'm very like the rest of
Leonard
the
Road
town board house.
is also the snowmobile trail. So where some of these trails pick up there, it's already an existing, you know, trail road, so to say. And some of these, the club, so it's actually picking up more and more, you know, places to ride. It's just, it's a way for everybody to get there, and to get there, I guess safely would be a good way to put it. By doing nothing, you know, all these folks are still riding, and they're still to their easy and less complicated. And to get it, you know, kind of into a picture that everybody could actually see and understand. I'm just trying to orient myself with this map here. And some of this, I'm new to some of these trails. I've kind of been out of the but so to say, as four-wheeler trail, or as snowmobile trails. And that, you know, that there should be some liability for snowmobile trails as well. It was brought up that, you know, it's a liability issue, and and I think there's probably some other things that could be done along the way to make things even a little bit better. You know, if you have a snowmobile, you have to belong to a snowmobile club to register it. I think that's something that could be, you know, set into the mix as well, that you have to belong to the four-wheeler club to, you know, get a pass to ride town roads. Yeah, if you look at this, everything's at kind of that end of town, so to say. And what some of this does that doesn't show up on this map is it ties trails to the Candor side. You know, everything's a little bit different in Candor. You can ride on Candor. And ultimately that's the goal, is to tie, and eventually, you know, Richford and whatever.
But we can't use town roads to connect to roads. That's just, we asked the attorney that question, and that's just.
I guess that this is me speaking for myself, as Catherine said earlier. How is it that is able to do this? If this
philosophy, when I was a kid, little kid, I told my mom I wanted to do something. She said, no, you can't do that. She said, well, Larry got to do it. She said, well, if Larry sticks his hand in a fire, are you going to stick your hand in a fire? So, I mean, I don't think the town of Candor do have specific road sections
to simplify some things, you know, and I mean, if you look at this, it's not, you know, the stuff in red is, you know, is the trails. So we're just looking at this yellow portion. It's a pretty small section of town. Talking about, but again, my question is that's the one thing that's been said, is it's against the law to do this. But my question is the town of Candor is the same municipal body that we are. How have they been able to get around it?
I feel like I spoke to that at the meeting that we did at Brookendale Fire Department, but I don't have the notes from it in front of me. Mark, and I could certainly use a memory refresher on that as well. But I wonder if Guy sent us something in writing that we might be able to find and at least refer to and use that as a
Well, Jesse's
basis.
minutes are very thorough from that night. I don't have them up, but that's worth
Oh,
looking at.
that would be, I'm talking a couple of years ago, Mark.
Yeah, that's Jesse's minutes from that. That's exactly it. So that's on the,
Okay.
under current
Okay.
topics. If you go into the ATV folder, but if you look at the town of Berkshire, it has an ATV law, and then it has, I can't remember, like, 5 specific road sections designated separately by resolution that can be modified, by the board going forward, that allows ATVs. So, and that pretty much what was going to put forward, was my understanding.
Right. I mean, if the club, and forgive me, Mark, if this is not correct, but it's like if the map that we're looking at right now is the map that the club wants to present, this is what they've presented, then the board, we could vote based on this map. If the club wants to present something else, then we would vote on that. But I mean, I think in terms of like moving
the process.
I mean,
the next step would be to forward this to Guy.
and I'm just trying not to overcomplicate this, right? Like we could use this map and we could be very, decide on this map and then solicit, opinion of the people who live on these roads and, whatever the next steps would be. But like, I think it seems like we're being a little bit of a stuck point around waiting for a map that this map is probably the best version of what the club could do, to be honest. I mean, I'm being really on, Bobby, like this doesn't meet what the law says, unfortunately, right? So, but that's just what it is. That's what was presented. I think the bigger question of like, why can't is like,
oh, you're getting really soft, Kathy.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay,
There you
great.
go.
I thought it was me.
I'm sure I wasn't saying anything particularly important.
I heard you. No, it was. Just a minor point I'll point out. I mean, 76 Road, I believe, is a county road. I think Flatiron is also a county road. So,
but like this is the discussion. Like, if we want to go based on what I'm hearing is that Cal, it feels like it's lingering, and the club would like some resolution, and we don't know where that resolution is going to go, but we could provide it.
yeah.
And just be done.
Yeah, it's at this point, I think that's fine. I think that's all the club is looking for. It's dragged on and dragged on and dragged on.
Okay.
I think they kind of feel because it hasn't, either way. They just want to know where they stand. Things have been, held up on their end as far as, providing people with trail maps. They want it, to include town roads in that map to get from trailhead to trailhead. So I think it's just a matter of a yes or no. at this point.
Their comments before I think we should,
Well, I'm looking back at the minutes from that meeting, and what Guy said specifically, or at least quoted from Jesse capturing, is that, start with a certain number of roads where it's impossible to connect, and kind of build it out from there. And so we're certain to consider, this map. And if we feel that this map is too much, we could make suggestions to scale some things back. But I kind of think, from what I'm reading from Guy, is we are able to do some things to connect trailheads. And I was open to it in 18. I'm open to it now. I wouldn't be open to just opening up the entire town road, right? I think that could be problematic, but
okay, so I guess I would ask what do you want to vote on this? Do you want to, I mean, I don't want to vote on this tonight, or we could, or whatever, but
we shouldn't vote tonight
Talk about-
if the club an answer. And I think I agree with that. We've got something to look at.
I mean,
I don't know.
I guess I have just a question for Bobby, if that's okay. If Bobby, are there any of these really long news sections that could be tweaked just to make this a little bit more palatable, potentially? You hear what I'm saying? Like there's the long section of 76, or there's the really long of green, or is any of this, would the club think that any of this would be tweakable, or is this a all or nothing
Oh,
situation?
no, I'm sure they're open, for anything. And again, I'm just the messenger on this.
Yeah.
and Bob, I'm correct, right? I mean, 76 Road is a county road. So that's,
76 is a county road.
right. So that's not yellow. That's, we can't. To open that up. Question would be, I mean, what I would envision, what I was envisioning in this process is like, okay, this section, can you see my hand
Yes.
in my cursor? Okay, that this section would be critical to connect the trail from here to here. This section would be critical maybe to connect this other little thing. Actually, we can't even open all this. So, like, I mean,
Where your hand is Ekers Road.
right. But there's a little section there. But then what's it connecting to? It's connecting to a county road that can't be opened. So it needs to connect to a trail. So I think
I mean,
I don't know if it's a linguistics weird ball thing, but is it town roads or roads within the town that aren't state highways? We can't do anything about a state highway. The state does have authority to grant permission on state roads, as I kind of understand it, but I'm not sure about that.
yeah, the state's a whole nother thing in itself.
Yeah,
Lost a state.
Right.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But, well, anyway, yeah, there is the issue. If it's a county road, but it's a local road kind of within the township. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just playing games
In what way?
with words. It's a local road within the town. It happens to be county designated. Town.
Don't have authority over county roads. They're county roads, so.
Yeah.
That's. I don't think that's
That
some-
we want to mess at all with anything that is a county road.
I don't think we can.
Yeah.
I don't think we can.
Well, Bobby, do you think that this conversation gives you enough and consider it at our next meeting?
Yeah, I can take it back. There is a meeting next Wednesday. So I can take that back to them, relay the information and, let them tweak it a little bit and see what.
That would be great. I mean, I think if they, well, this is for me, it would be helpful. If I mean to connect these trails, so that's just.
But if you want to get from the ones down in the south to the ones up more, near Caroline Center, then you pretty much need most of that road that I know.
Like Yapel Road.
Yeah. Yep.
If you go from Yapel Road, you either have to go Level Green or Blackman Hill.
Yeah, but you could go Level Green. I guess you gotta erase Old 76 Road because it's a county road.
I think so.
And you gotta erase Flatiron Road. Otherwise, we're talking just town roads, I think.
Right. It looks to me like the real problem is this section near Caroline Center that's
Yeah.
isolated from everything else.
Yeah.
And
well, you've got Level Green Road and Yapel Road, and that can take you up over the old, which is actually where Taft Road used to the colored side, and then it split, and a leg of it came over to Yapel Road, and the other leg went on down to Level Green Road by Charlie Baylor's. So they're actually just riding on, which was a dedicated town road back in the early 1900s. But anyway, that's just from having lived here 200 years.
So I guess, can I make a general statement? Issue, opinion of the town also seems a part of this, which hasn't been.
So that's good.
I mean, I'm new to the board, so I don't know, maybe this is something that has already been discussed. So I don't know the timing of the map, then soliciting opinion, then the map. I don't know, but I feel like we're really missing a big part of this, which is soliciting opinion, other than us.
I think you're exactly right that and it would have to be a public discussion. That's a critical part.
Mhm.
So,
All
yeah,
right.
I'll take the information back and
Okay.
relay it to who it needs to be relayed to, and let them come up with what they need to come up with and bring it back.
Great. Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. let's see, I guess I'll go ahead and offer a motion to enter executive session to discuss a personnel issue.
I'll second
Sure.
it.
Seconded by Cal, I think. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. Okay. So we will now stop recording.